It was one of those nights when the air felt heavy, as if it carried the weight of untold stories and quiet suffering. The neon lights of Dusty's diner flickered against the dark stretch of highway just outside town, a lonely beacon for truckers, bikers, and night wanderers. Inside, the hum of old rock music mingled with the low chatter of tired voices, and behind the counter, a young woman moved like a shadow, quiet, graceful, but with an exhaustion that clung to her every step. Her name was Mara. From the outside, she looked like any other waitress trying to make it through another shift, but when the light hit her face just right, the truth appeared. Faint purple bruises along her neck and wrists. She kept tugging down her sleeves, hoping no one would notice. She smiled when customers were rude, apologized when they didn't deserve it, and worked harder than anyone else. She was the kind of person who had learned how to survive by making herself small. That night, a low rumble echoed outside, the sound of engines deep and powerful, growing louder by the second. The diner's regulars turned to look, some uneasy, some intrigued. Everyone knew what it meant. The Iron Serpents had arrived. At their head was Cole Maddox, the gang's leader. A man built like he'd been carved from steel, his eyes sharp and unreadable beneath a mess of dark hair. The kind of man most people avoided. Rumors followed him like smoke. Some said he'd done time. Others said he'd saved lives. No one knew which stories were true. When Cole walked in, the room seemed to shrink around him. The bikers filled the booths, loud and unapologetic, but Cole just sat at the counter, right across from Mara. She approached with her usual forced smile, asking for their order. But as she leaned forward to place his coffee down, her sleeve slipped. Cole saw it, the bruise. For a brief moment, their eyes met. His filled with quiet rage, hers with fear. She quickly pulled her sleeve back and turned away, pretending. Nothing happened. But Cole didn't. He saw more now, small cuts near her wrist, a faint limp in her step. He had seen pain before, but not like this. Not on someone who still tried to smile. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that touch the heart. The night went on, but Cole couldn't take his eyes off her. Every time Mara flinched when someone raised their voice, every time she forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes, it stirred something in him. He'd lived his whole life surrounded by violence, but now, watching her, he realized what real fear looked like. When Mara's shift ended, the diner emptied out slowly. Cole waited, pretending to finish his drink. He saw her clock out, step outside into the cold, and wrap her thin jacket tight around her. A rusted pickup truck pulled up beside her, its headlights cutting across the parking lot. The driver, mid-30s, unshaven, angry, leaned out, shouting something harsh. Mara froze, then hurried toward the passenger side. Cole's fists tightened. He saw her open the door with shaking hands and climb in without a word. The truck sped off into the dark. That night, Cole didn't sleep. He'd seen enough to know what was happening, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he couldn't let it go. The next morning, Cole returned to the diner. Mara was there again, hiding the bruises with makeup, acting like nothing happened. When she brought his coffee, he spoke softly, barely above a whisper. He told her she didn't deserve to live in fear, that she could get help. But she just shook her head. "Please," she said, eyes glistening, "don't get involved." Then she walked away. But Cole was already involved. Over the next week, he kept coming back, sometimes alone, sometimes with his men. They never caused trouble. They just sat, watched, and made sure Mara got home safely. Word spread quickly. The Iron Serpents had taken a liking to the quiet waitress at Dusty's. The bruises on her arms began to fade, but the fear in her eyes didn't. Then one rainy night, everything changed. The diner was nearly empty when Mara's abuser stormed in, drunk and red-faced, shouting her name. He grabbed her by the arm so hard she cried out. The other customers froze, not daring to move, but Cole was there. And this time he didn't stay seated. He rose slowly, the chain on his jacket glinting under the flickering lights. His voice was low but carried across the room. "Let her go." The man turned, sneering. "Stay out of it, biker. This is between me and her." But Cole didn't stop. He took one step forward, then another. By the time he reached them, the man's confidence had started to crack. Cole didn't throw a punch. He didn't need to. His presence alone was enough to make the man stumble back. "Touch her again," Cole said, "and I swear you'll never touch anyone else." There was silence. Then the man turned and bolted out the door. Mara stood there trembling, tears welling up. She didn't know what to say. Cole just nodded once, then turned to leave, but she stopped him. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you care?" Cole looked at her for a long time before replying. "Because no one cared when they should have for someone I once knew." From that night on, everything changed. The Iron Serpent started showing up at the diner every evening, not to cause fear, but to keep it away. The locals who once avoided the bikers now nodded at them in quiet gratitude. Mara started to smile again, for real this time. She began talking, laughing even. Cole never pried into her past, but slowly she told him everything. The years of abuse, the isolation, the fear of never being free. Cole listened, never interrupting, his eyes soft in a way no one had ever seen before. One day, he told her that strength wasn't about fighting, it was about surviving. And she had already done that. But the past doesn't let go easily. A month later, Mara's abuser came back, angrier, desperate, and armed. He waited until closing time, hiding behind the diner. When Mara stepped outside, he grabbed her, dragging her toward his truck. She screamed, and before she could even realize what was happening, engines roared in the distance. The Iron Serpents appeared like thunder rolling across the night. Within seconds, they surrounded the truck. Cole stepped forward, his eyes burning with fury. The man froze, realizing he was outnumbered. The bikers didn't touch him. They didn't have to. Cole called the sheriff, who arrived minutes later to arrest the man. The whole town heard what happened that night. Some couldn't believe it. A biker gang protecting a waitress. Others said it was redemption. For Mara, it was the first night she finally felt safe. Days turned into weeks, and she began to heal. Not just from the bruises, but from the years of silence and pain. She found a small apartment, enrolled in evening classes, and started rebuilding her life. Cole would still stop by the diner, sitting at the same counter, ordering the same coffee, and every time she poured it, their eyes met, and a quiet understanding passed between them. He never asked for thanks, but one night, she placed a small napkin by his cup. On it were the words, "You saved me when I didn't think I was worth saving." Cole didn't respond, just smiled faintly and nodded. But inside, something changed. For the first time in years, he felt like all the mistakes of his past had finally led to something right. Months later, Mara stood in front of a small crowd at the diner's reopening, renovated and brighter than ever. She gave a short speech, thanking the town for standing by her, but when she looked toward the back, she saw Cole and his men quietly watching from their corner. She smiled through tears and said, "And thank you to the people who taught me that not all strength looks the same. Sometimes it wears leather and rides a Harley." The crowd laughed softly, but everyone knew who she meant. After the ceremony, Cole came up to her and handed her a small silver bracelet engraved with a serpent. "For protection," he said simply. She hugged him tightly, whispering, "You already gave me that." From that day on, Dusty's Diner wasn't just a place for travelers. It became a symbol of community, of redemption, of unexpected kindness. The Iron Serpents became local legends not for their past, but for what they did that night. Mara often told people that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they're the ones no one expects. And Cole? He rode off one morning, leaving only a note behind that said, "Keep shining, kid. You made the world a little better." She framed that note and hung it on the wall right above the counter, next to a photo of the diner filled with laughter and light. And every time the doorbell jingled, she looked up, half expecting to see him again. Because deep down she knew, kind souls never really leave. They just keep riding, helping others find their way back to the light. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Every act of kindness helps us spread more stories that remind the world what compassion looks like. Special request. Comment below. I believe in kindness and second chances, because sometimes one act of courage can change not just one life, but an entire town.